record on this. So good morning, everyone. Jodie Siemens from Taking Perspective. How are you all? Thank you for joining me this morning. Those who are joining me live and those who have registered, you will receive a copy in your inbox if you're not here. And even if you have registered, you will still receive a copy in your inbox. All right, so the next few weeks, the webinars are going to be at 12 p.m. because I'm helping a friend out in the mornings just with a few things. So we're just setting a webinar back during the day. All right, so today's webinar, here we are. Hide that, always gets in the way. So how do we deal with disappointment? What's up for discussion today is what is the emotion behind disappointment? What are the causes of disappointment? Is feeling disappointment good for you? And 5 ways that we can help deal with disappointment. So the first one we've got is, what is the emotion behind disappointment? So disappointment is really an offshoot emotion. It's quite a complex one, and that we tend to find that it stems from sadness. So what it is that we feel that our expectations for something we've desired have been, taken away from us, have been dashed. So by saying this, we all instantly recognize that feeling of being let down. We may have a feeling of anger behind that. And we might even feel like, we don't deserve what's happened, that, we don't deserve to feel disappointment. Okay, so we may even feel, to a degree, a type of form of grief when we tend to miss out on an opportunity, because it's a form of loss. Okay. I can actually open that up. All right, so I've just got a quote here. Renee Brown writes, "But in most moments when disappointment is washing over us and we are desperately trying to get our hands and hearts around what it is or what it's not going to be, the depth of our expectations can be painful beyond measure." So feeling disappointed about something is, it's a real thing, and it can be quite debilitating depending on what it is and whether or not you've got the coping mechanisms on how to deal with bouncing back, the resilience of it. So here we've got, what are the causes of disappointment? So we can narrow the causes down to pretty much 3. There's an internal misalignment, there's some external factors involved, and our experiences in our lives. So the first one I'm going to talk about is internal misalignment. And by that, I mean, it's pretty much a unique experience where disappointment occurs when we are so focused on achieving our goals that we miss and are not a part of the actual process. So we're so headstrong at looking at the end game and not actually being a part of the process to get there, which is often the place where we learn from and where we tweak things, all the little goals that add up to the big goal. So we tend to overextend ourselves, and we live in this place of unhappiness every day through not being able to achieve our goals. And all of this can put us in a place where we tend to struggle. We arrive at a destination where we're just constantly struggling. So if you're experiencing disappointment in this way, it's because there's an internal misalignment. So it's something within, it's a thought pattern that you're creating. It's a belief that you hold, it's a value that you hold. So what you thought might bring you positive emotions have turned out to be unfulfilling. The second one is the external factors. Here we talk about when an unrealistic expectation doesn't match the actual circumstances. So we pretty much don't want to accept what's happened. And if we have high expectations around a situation or an outcome, we can often experience even more intense disappointment. And the third one is about our experiences. So you may even have experienced some traumatic event around loss or disappointment during childhood, just as an example. And from this, our psyche draws on that negative conclusion around that circumstance. So we tend to go back in our memories and draw upon things that have certainly had a traumatic or a major loss of disappointment. We go back and we remember what happened then, and we have this expectation that it's going to happen again because that's the pattern we've created. So when you mature into adulthood and you face this similar situation around a traumatic event, in the eyes of the child, it's very different to when it's playing out in adulthood, but we still automatically replay this earlier experience when we were a child around this loss or disappointment. And it's what we find, it's not an objective evaluation of the circumstances. It's really subjective to the specific experience that you had either as a child or that you're having now as an adult. So the discouragement you experience can quickly turn into what I say self-fulfilling prophecies, unless you learn how to deal with it. So it's really about expecting to a degree the unexpected and understanding that your patterns do not have to reoccur, that they can change. So just because that's the experience that you felt at one time or another does not mean it's going to happen to you again. The next one here is feeling disappointed good for you. So I can suggest that not in the moment, no one, including myself, likes the feeling of disappointment, but it's about the actions that you take after you've felt that disappointment that can completely transform and change the outcome and for you to make better decisions through the process. So disappointment is a less useful emotion if we want to talk about it as a specific point in an experience. But just like when we fail at something, we can use the experience, we can use the disappointment to tell us that something is off. Okay, so it can give you an understanding that something needs to change, and be it circumstances or the process. If you're not so focused on the end game and you're actually a part of the process, you can see where it needs to change and your expectations of that. So this is how it tends to work. So we set our goal or outcome that we desire. We overestimate the good things that might happen when we first start at tasking or leading to the realization of this goal. Simultaneously, we underestimate the negative things that can also happen along the path towards this goal. So a slide here, the most dangerous stories we make are the narratives that diminish our inherent worthiness. We must reclaim the truth above our lovability, divinity, and creativity. I liked that one. So just getting back to the slide on how it works, we seem to have missed a few there. So the first one was we set our goal or outcome that we desire. We then overestimate the good things. We also overestimate the bad things. This is why the first part of the goal attainment can feel as though it's quite treacherous, because you're living in this, what seems to be this vortex or valley of disappointment. But if we keep our expectations steady and we have a good balance of understanding of the good things and understanding of the bad things, understanding that there will be failures along the way and that we can learn from them, that the same things about disappointment is we end up in breakthrough. We end up being able to get through the other side. Okay. So 5 ways we deal with disappointment first is about learning how to deal with disappointment. It's about learning how to emerge from it and building resilience in its wake. So it's definitely about the bounce back and the pivoting and how you can turn that around. So the first one I've got here is let it out. So whether the disappointment, it's disappointment or it's anger, you really need to just let it out, obviously in a healthy way, because it's really about your emotional health. You know, you can find friends, family, a therapist if you need, and really channel this kind of tough emotion through a creative outlet, whether, you know, it could be hiking, it could be painting, could be pottery, you know, whatever you choose. But really make sure that you channel this emotion and you talk to somebody. You don't bottle it up. Other ways you can do this is writing in a journal, as I said, doing something physical. And it's really about regulating the emotions away from feeling that disappointment and putting yourself in a place where you this too shall pass. Okay. So the next one I've got here is get perspective. This is about, again, communicating with friends and family about your disappointment, even co-workers, if it's something that's happened within the workplace, because it can really bring you a lot of clarity. So when we reach outside of our own perspective and we start to get other people's perspectives, we can really begin to see things, you know, from the outside looking in for what they really are, rather than how we feel about them, because we need to remove the emotion from the situation. The next one is know your heart. So of course you have to balance your external validation with your own inner wisdom, okay? So the problem with our emotions like disappointment is that we can completely derail our vision of ourselves, and we start to think of things like, you know, our own abilities. We tend to suffer from imposter syndrome. You know, we don't believe we're effective decision makers. You know, we lose our focus. There's all sorts of things that can happen. So our sense of self can become really skewed if we've had too many disappointments stacked up and we're not dealing with them accordingly. So that's why it's really important, again, to really look at your core values and your principles before you start to embark upon a goal, and really make sure that why you're doing it is in favor of your why and not somebody else's, and it's about you. So the next one we've got here is practice self-acceptance. So once you've checked in with yourself and, you know, your supporters, your tribe, it can be quite easy, a lot easier to accept that you're at the right starting point and you can start afresh, because practicing self-acceptance is something that you need to continually do. It's at the root of yourself. It's at the root of what Eric Tolle calls the power of now. It's practicing, you know, you can practice similar to meditation and mindfulness. It's really about being present in the moment, and it allows you to acknowledge what is real and what is not real by being able to really lean into those thoughts and emotions. And, you know, like breath, disappointment comes and goes. So we breathe into it and we let it pass. Okay, so that was a nice way of putting it. The next one is don't let it fester. So don't bottle it up. The worst thing you can do is brood over negative experiences. Again, you know, I understand there's a variable here. You know, you certainly have to have a level of critiquing, and, you know, it's not about bouncing back immediately, but it's certainly about understanding why the emotion is there in the first place. And from disappointment, you know, you have to then understand what your next steps forward are, and bottling up is not a good choice. So the next one we've got here is the summary. So disappointment may be the most important thing in reaching your goals. Simply feeling disappointment tells you 3 important things. It means that you are passionate about something. So the expectation is the root cause of the heartache, so this goes, it's a part of who you are. It's part of what you're passionate about. So the very fact that your expectations have been missed and the reality comes, we have to be brave enough to continue to show up in that moment. The next one is an opportunity for growth. And I think this is important when we talk about the fear of failure. We also talk about we have to see failure as a moment to pivot, a moment to reassess, and a moment to look back upon what we've done. And it's the same with disappointment. We can use with the right mindset, we can grow through the disappointments, as long as you're committed to getting back up again and trying again and pivoting, that no matter what you go through, you will, or what's happened, you will be able to step up and grow from it. So it's really about making sure that you're aligned with your expectations and that's aligned with reality. So you can tailor your decisions then also to, avoid major disappointment as long as your expectations are in alignment with reality and your goals. The next one here is it can make you stronger. Absolutely. So disappointment is something that often stems from a childhood trauma that we've spoken about, earlier, because most of our traumas, our emotions that we feel happen usually between the ages of 0 and 7. So we can talk about them as our first experiences happening back then. It can make us feel as though we can't try new things because we might fail. And I think it's really about the starting point of your resilience and being able to overcome that adversity and that thought pattern and being able to move forward. So it can definitely make you stronger and more resilient. So research says the benefits of the diversity of disappointment is a greater mental fortitude. It increases emotional intelligence. It creates clearer thinking and gives you a stronger stance against negative thinking. Okay, so we're at the end of the webinar. I have a promo here. I have a free ebook that I'm offering. This gives you some insight into the inaccurate assumptions that a lot of us have placed on what it means to be vulnerable. And the ebook is The 4 Truths About Vulnerability. I will pop the link to that in the comments. Please download it. It's a good one. And the next one I have is I'm offering a special edition webinar on the 4th of July, Monday the 4th of July. It's not on the slide, I do apologise. Monday the 4th of July at 10 p.m. Why vulnerability is an important part of being human. So this webinar will touch on that. It'll touch on experiences, pain, struggles, and the shame of not being enough. We tend to shut down those parts of ourselves that really make us vulnerable due to our pains and experience and the struggles that we've faced. So the webinar is really about helping you reopen those parts. And as I said, that is the 4th of July, Monday, the 4th of July at 10 a.m. I will also pop the link in the comments for that. And next week's webinar, again, will be at 12 p.m. due to my being busy in the morning. So Friday, the 1st of July, 12 p.m. I'm doing a webinar on what is the importance of creating boundaries. So I think that's a good one. A lot of us tend to need to create more boundaries. Okay, so here you can find me on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Anchor, and TikTok. You can also find me on. So thank you all very much for joining me on this webinar, and I look forward to presenting the next one. Thanks, guys. Bye.